course, they broke away 5 years ago. The story really now is about their decline, about their desperation to survive.
Meghan Markle has suddenly found herself at the center of a storm no one expected after Tom Bower exposed 10 shocking claims about the royal wedding that took place 8 years ago. Behind the beauty and smiles, he pointed to details that many never noticed. Now, people are questioning everything they once believed. But how much of it is really true? Let's find out. The unconventional royal wedding. The wedding between Harry and Meghan was globally celebrated as a modernizing moment for the monarchy in Britain and beyond. A biracial American actress was joining the British royal family in a historic moment. People around the world watched with hope and excitement about what this meant. The ceremony seemed to represent progress and inclusion in an institution known for tradition. The global audience of hundreds of millions suggested massive public interest and support for the couple. However, Tom Bower's book offered a much darker interpretation of what the wedding actually represented long-term. His research suggested the ceremony marked the beginning of serious conflicts rather than harmonious integration. The differences between Meghan's Hollywood background and royal institutional expectations were already creating tension. Rather than two worlds successfully merging together, they were already clashing behind the scenes. Here are some truths about the wedding. Number 1. The father of the bride. Thomas Markle was supposed to walk his daughter down the aisle on her wedding day, but he couldn't make it. Just days before the wedding, a British newspaper revealed something shocking. Thomas had staged photographs with a paparazzi photographer in return for money. The photos showed him reading about British culture and preparing for the wedding. His daughter Samantha later stated that it was her idea, and that her father's motivation was not financial, but to show the world he was getting in shape and doing healthy things. The situation changed by the hour in the days before the wedding. First, Thomas said he would not attend because he felt embarrassed. Then he changed his mind and said he wanted to walk Meghan down the aisle. Hours later, he announced he was in the hospital and could not travel. Thomas Markle had a heart attack 6 days before the wedding. He told reporters he needed surgery to clear blockage and repair damage to his heart. The constant changes created confusion for the wedding planners and the royal family. Thomas later told Good Morning Britain that he cried watching his daughter walk down the aisle on television. He expressed regret about missing the moment and being reduced to a footnote in history rather than the father walking his daughter down the aisle. For years before the wedding, photographers had taken unflattering pictures of him. They showed him buying beer, taking out garbage, and doing ordinary activities. He explained that he agreed to stage better photos to improve how the public saw him. The plan clearly failed and created far more problems instead. Meghan reportedly heard about her father's situation through the media outlets rather than from him directly. She tried to call him but could not reach him during the chaotic days before the wedding. The palace issued an unusual statement asking for privacy for Thomas during this difficult time. Meghan released her own statement saying she cared for her father and hoped he could focus on his health. However, it was shameful that a personal family drama played out publicly in the worst possible way. On the wedding day itself, Meghan broke royal tradition by making the best of a difficult situation. She walked alone up the first part of the aisle at St. George's Chapel. Then Prince Charles joined her for the second half of the walk to meet Harry at the altar. Her mother Doria was the only family member from her side who attended the ceremony. Thomas told the website that he watched the royal wedding from his bed while recuperating from heart surgery. He would always regret not being able to be there for his daughter. The relationship between father and daughter never recovered from this painful episode. They have not spoken since shortly after the wedding. Meghan Markle has been estranged from her father, Thomas Markle, since 2018 when he staged those paparazzi pictures before her wedding. Number 2. The tiara selection. Every royal bride gets to choose a tiara from the Queen's collection for her wedding day. For Meghan, this tradition became a source of major conflict behind palace walls. The Queen invited Meghan to Buckingham Palace to try on different tiaras from her personal collection. She would pick out a small selection which she thought would suit that bride and ask her round to try them on and choose one. The Queen saw this as her lovely way of bonding with new family members. She had done the same thing with Kate and Sophie before their weddings. Meghan chose Queen Mary's diamond bandeau tiara. This beautiful piece was made in the 1920s and had deep royal history. The tiara has a detachable floral-shaped brooch at its center. But problems started when Harry and Meghan asked to practice with the tiara before the wedding. The Queen suggested Meghan should rehearse wearing it with her hairdresser. She told them it was tricky, and they would not want to be doing it for the first time on the wedding day. This advice seemed reasonable for handling such a valuable and delicate piece. Harry tried many times to reach Angela Kelly, the Queen's personal dresser and curator. He wanted Kelly to send the tiara so Meghan could practice with her French hairdresser. But Kelly did not respond to the requests at first. Then she said the tiara would need a police escort to leave the palace for security reasons. Even after Harry agreed to arrange proper security, she told him it still could not be done. Harry writes that after the initial meeting with the Queen, he reached out to Kelly multiple times to arrange for the tiara to be sent to him. The situation frustrated Harry so much that he considered going directly to the Queen about the problem, but he worried about causing a bigger confrontation and possible family drama. Harry had considered going to his grandmother, but that would probably mean sparking an all-out confrontation, and he was not quite sure whose side she would take. He also thought Angela Kelly was being difficult on purpose and did not want to make her an enemy within the palace system. Behind the scenes, the Queen was not pleased with the constant requests and pressure. She told an insider that the tiara was not a toy to be passed around casually. According to the source, the monarch told Kelly to ignore the phone calls from Harry about the tiara. The Queen reportedly compared the situation to Kate's wedding preparation. Kate had used a plastic tiara from the accessories chain Claire's to practice her hairstyle before her wedding. Eventually, Kelly did bring the tiara to Harry, but the tension around the situation left hard feelings on both sides. Number 3. Bridesmaid dress fitting tensions.
That they recognize the importance for you to be partially exempted from that.
The bridesmaid dress drama became one of the most talked about conflicts from the royal wedding. Reports first surfaced that Meghan had made Kate cry during a fitting for Princess Charlotte's dress. Years later, Meghan told a completely different story to Oprah Winfrey. She said the reverse happened and that Kate actually made her cry instead. The truth about what happened during those dress fittings remains disputed to this day, with different sources telling conflicting versions. Tom Bower claims unnamed sources told him the Duchess of Cambridge and the Duchess of Sussex disagreed over the hemline of Charlotte's dress as well as the fit. The two women also could not agree on whether the young bridesmaids should wear tights under their dresses. This might seem like a small detail, but it mattered for royal protocol and tradition. Kate felt strongly that the girls should wear tights following traditional standards. At Kate and William's wedding, all the bridesmaids wore tights as part of proper formal attire. Kate had just given birth to Prince Louis only weeks before the wedding. Kate was too fatigued to cope with a disagreement over whether bridesmaids should wear tights, however, ultimately felt they should in order to follow protocol. She was emotional and dealing with the challenges of having a newborn baby at home. The disagreement about tights was supported by Jessica Mulrooney, Meghan's best friend at the time. Jessica's daughter Ivy was also a bridesmaid in the wedding party. Some people even said that Meghan compared Ivy favorably against Charlotte. A second argument happened about the length of Charlotte's dress hem and how the dress fit overall. Kate thought it was too short and did not fit her daughter properly. But Meghan would not compromise on the changes Kate wanted made to the dress. This upset Kate even more because she felt it confirmed complaints from palace staff about Meghan's difficult behavior. The wedding photos show all 6 bridesmaids with bare legs, suggesting Meghan got her way on the tights issue in the end. A royal staffer claimed that all the papers and commentators got this wrong. The truth is that, as with many of these spats between sisters, both sides were really upset during the disagreement. This source said both women said things they later regretted in the heat of the moment and high wedding stress. Both women were crying their eyes out, according to this account from someone who witnessed the situation. Meanwhile, the tailor who actually worked on the dresses said he did not see any fight happen in his presence during fittings. His team worked tooth and nail for 4 days, working until 4 in the morning, 3 nights in a row, to make the dresses fit all 6 bridesmaids properly. The incident became symbolic of the deteriorating relationship between the two duchesses, and marked a turning point that many people see as the beginning of deeper family conflicts. Number 4. The The guest list politics. Royal weddings usually include presidents, prime ministers, and leaders from around the world as a matter of diplomatic protocol. But Harry and Meghan did something very different with their guest list that surprised observers. Kensington Palace announced that the royal couple would not be inviting political leaders to the event, at least not on the basis of their official position. This meant no politicians would attend simply because of their government roles. The decision surprised many people who expected a traditional royal wedding with the usual diplomatic guests. Neither United States President Donald Trump nor his predecessor Barack Obama would be there. Not even British Prime Minister Theresa May was deemed worthy of a place on the guest list. This was very different from William and Kate's wedding in 2011. That ceremony at Westminster Abbey included many political leaders and foreign royals as official guests. But Harry's wedding would take place at the much smaller venue at Windsor Castle. The venue could only hold 800 people compared to nearly 2,000 at Westminster Abbey. The decision not to invite Obama created particular interest among royal watchers. Harry and Obama had developed a close friendship through the Invictus Games, an event for injured servicemen and women that was started by the United Kingdom Royal in 2014. The two men had even participated in a playful social media competition, and Harry interviewed Obama for BBC Radio. Many people assumed the Obamas would definitely receive invitations based on this personal friendship. But inviting the Obamas, while not inviting President Trump, could create serious diplomatic problems for Britain. Sources say that royal officials were worried that such a snub could create an international crisis between the two countries. The British government was consulted about this decision. Officials encouraged Harry to simply remove all political leaders from the guest list to avoid any awkward situations. This way, nobody could claim they were being snubbed for political reasons or cause tension. The only politician invited was the former Prime Minister Sir John Major. He previously was a special guardian on legal matters to Princes William and Harry after the demise of their mother, Princess Diana. Instead of politicians, the guest list focused on family members and personal friends, which included famous personalities. The wedding felt more like a celebrity event than a traditional state occasion. This reflected Harry's position as sixth in line to the throne, meaning he was unlikely to ever become king and therefore had more flexibility in planning. Number 5. The sermon and cultural elements. The wedding ceremony included several unusual choices that surprised traditional royal watchers and created discussion. Bishop Michael Curry from Chicago delivered the sermon at the wedding ceremony. Prince Harry's maternal aunt, Lady Jane Fellows, read a scripture lesson from the Song of Solomon in the Christian Bible. But it was Bishop Curry's passionate 14-minute sermon about the power of love that really stood out from typical royal weddings. He spoke with energy and emotion that was very different from typical Church of England services that royals usually attend. The Kingdom Choir performed the song "Stand By Me" during the ceremony with soul and gospel style. This added clear American and African American cultural influences to the traditional British royal wedding ceremony. This balance requires patience and planning, ensuring that the monarchy remains steady while also evolving. It is not about stepping aside. Many people praise these elements as refreshing, inclusive, and modern.
There was no way to win this through the courts. Wish someone had told me that beforehand.
They saw the choices as bringing contemporary diversity to an ancient institution that needed updating. However, some traditional observers found the changes too unconventional for a royal wedding setting. Tom Bauer positioned these choices differently in his book about the royal couple. He suggested they were part of a pattern of Meghan reshaping royal traditions to match her personal preferences. Rather than adapting to British customs and learning the traditional ways, she was changing the customs themselves to suit her. This interpretation painted the wedding elements as evidence of culture clash, rather than cultural celebration. The debate reflected larger questions about whether the monarchy should modernize or maintain strict tradition. The sermon focused heavily on love as a redemptive and transformative power in the world. Bishop Curry quoted Martin Luther King Jr. and spoke about love changing the world for the better. His delivery style included raised voice, dramatic pauses, and gestures throughout the sermon. This preaching approach is common in some American churches, but rare in British royal settings. The contrast between the traditional stone chapel and the contemporary message created a memorable moment that people still discuss. The Kingdom Choir brought soul and gospel music into Windsor Castle in an unprecedented way. Their performance added warmth and joy to the ceremony that felt different. For supporters, these elements showed how Meghan was bringing her entire self into the royal family. For critics, they represented unwelcome American influence on British institutions and traditions. The wedding became a symbol of changing times and the tension between old and new ways. Number 6. The cost and funding. The royal wedding came with a massive price tag that sparked public debate about royal spending. The total cost of the high-profile televised May wedding was £32 million. Figures showed that $1.5 million was spent by the Department for Digital, Culture, Media, and Sport. The bulk of the budget went to security costs for protecting the event. $30 million of the $32 million spent went to security measures alone. This meant that security made up more than 90% of the total wedding cost. The royal family paid for the actual wedding ceremony itself and related expenses. They paid for the core aspects of the wedding, such as the church service, the associated music, flowers, decorations, catering, and the reception afterwards at Windsor Castle. But British taxpayers covered the enormous security bills for protecting the event. This public funding of security costs upset many citizens across the country. More than 30,000 people signed a petition asking the government not to use taxpayer money for the wedding. The security needs were extensive because of the high-profile nature of the event. Protection included snipers positioned around Windsor, undercover police officers in the crowds, and military technology. The cost breakdown included £232,000 for the PA system used to communicate what was happening in St. George's Chapel to the public outside. Another large expense was over £1 million for Windsor Council for crowd control, barriers, big screens, and waste disposal. These costs added up quickly for an event watched by millions worldwide on television. Some specific wedding expenses stood out as particularly lavish to observers. The invitations alone cost over £200,000 to print and mail. 20 silver-plated trumpets were bought to announce the event for £125,000. The wedding cake from Violet Bakery cost £70,000 to create. Meghan's wedding dress cost an estimated £390,000. For comparison, Kate Middleton's wedding dress cost about £250,000 7 years earlier. The economic impact told a different story, though, about the value. It was later estimated that the wedding generated £1 billion for the British economy. This included an additional $300 million brought in by foreign tourists for the event. Merchandise and souvenirs added another £50 million in sales. The tourism boost and global attention brought significant financial benefits to Britain overall. Stores, restaurants, and bars across the country saw increased business from people celebrating the wedding. Overall, that was a good thing. Number 7. Meghan's relationship with her family. The wedding guest list revealed deep divisions in Meghan's family that could not be hidden. Meghan's mother was her only family member in attendance at the ceremony. Doria Ragland sat alone on the bride's side of the chapel, looking dignified. No other Markle family members were present at the ceremony in Windsor. This unusual situation drew attention and raised questions about Meghan's family relationships and history. The absence of her father, half-siblings, and extended family was striking to everyone watching. Meghan's half-sister Samantha and half-brother Thomas Jr. were not invited to the wedding at all. They had both given interviews to the media about Meghan in the months before the wedding. Samantha was particularly vocal in criticizing her half-sister publicly in television appearances. She later wrote a book about their family called The Diary of Princess Pushy's Sister. The estrangement between Meghan and her father's side of the family was already well established before the wedding day arrived. Tom Bower's book examined these family issues in detail through his research. He questioned Meghan's accounts of various family relationships and explored the history of these conflicts. His investigation looked at when and why different family members became separated from Meghan over the years. The pattern of estrangements raised questions about family dynamics on both sides of the conflicts. Some saw Meghan as the victim of a difficult and toxic family, while others wondered about her role in these broken relationships and whether she contributed to the problems. The contrast with Harry's large extended family was obvious during the ceremony to anyone watching. Rows of royals and aristocrats filled the groom's side of St. George's Chapel. The Spencers, Diana's family, attended in good numbers to support Harry. Harry's cousins, Beatrice, Eugenie, and Zara, were all present with their families and partners. This balance requires patience and planning, ensuring that the monarchy remains steady while also evolving. It is not about stepping aside. The visible difference between the two sides of the chapel told a story about family support and connection, or lack of it. The Sussexes maintained that toxic family dynamics made including certain relatives impossible and unwise. They pointed to family members selling stories to tabloids and exploiting their connection to Meghan for money. The media attention and pressure made already strained relationships completely break down over time. Unfortunately, Meghan's father continued giving paid interviews after the wedding, further damaging any chance of reconciliation. He spoke repeatedly to media outlets without considering the effect of his actions. Doria's solitary presence spoke volumes about Meghan's family situation to observers. She appeared calm and composed, despite being alone among hundreds of guests at Windsor. Her relationship with her daughter remained strong, while other family bonds had fractured completely. The wedding day crystallized the reality that Meghan was entering the royal family largely disconnected from her own relatives. Number 8. The private ceremony claim. Years after the wedding, Harry and Meghan made a surprising claim during their Oprah interview. They said they had a private ceremony with the Archbishop of Canterbury 3 days before the public wedding. Meghan told Oprah they wanted something just for themselves before the spectacle and cameras. She described exchanging vows in their backyard with just the three of them present and no one else. This revelation surprised many people who thought the Windsor ceremony was their actual wedding and legal marriage. The Archbishop of Canterbury later issued a clarification about what actually happened in the backyard. He explained that the backyard gathering was not a legal wedding ceremony at all. It was a private exchange of vows and personal commitment between the couple. The official legal marriage took place at St. George's Chapel on May 19th, as everyone had witnessed on television. This clarification contradicted the impression Meghan and Harry had given in the Oprah interview to millions of viewers. The confusion created criticism about whether the couple had intentionally misrepresented the situation. Critics said they had implied they were already married before the public ceremony at Windsor. This made the Windsor wedding seem less authentic or meaningful to some people. If they were already married privately, why have the big public event at all? The explanation that it was just vows, not a wedding, felt like backtracking after the Oprah interview caused confusion. Supporters viewed the situation differently and defended the couple. They said the couple was simply sharing a personal spiritual moment that had meaning for them privately. The backyard vows were about their private commitment to each other before God. The public ceremony fulfilled legal and family obligations to the country. There was no intent to deceive anyone about what happened. The Archbishop's clarification simply helped people understand the distinction between the two separate events. The incident damaged their credibility with some observers who were already skeptical. If they could be wrong or misleading about when they actually got married, what else might be inaccurate? For others, it was an innocent misunderstanding blown out of proportion by hostile media. The debate illustrated how every Sussex statement would be examined and questioned going forward. Trust had eroded to the point where even personal wedding details became controversial and disputed. Number 9. Pre-wedding royal family dynamics.
That they recognise the importance for you to be partially exempted from that.
Reports of tension between Meghan and other royal family members began circulating even before the wedding took place. The British tabloids published stories suggesting that not everyone in the family was thrilled about Harry's choice of bride. These early reports hinted at concerns and reservations among senior royals about the match. Some stories focused on cultural differences between the American actress and the traditional British aristocracy. Some suggested worry about how Meghan would handle the intense scrutiny and strict protocols of royal life. Tom Bower's book painted a picture of significant family reservations that existed well before the wedding day arrived. His sources claimed that certain family members had doubts from very early on in the relationship. According to Bower, warning signs of future conflicts were already visible to those paying close attention. The book suggested that some royals questioned whether Meghan understood what royal life would really require. Her Hollywood background and independent personality raised concerns about how she would adapt to royal duties and restrictions. The relationship between Meghan and Kate reportedly showed signs of strain before the wedding beyond the dress incident. There were personality clashes and different approaches to royal life and duty. Kate had spent years carefully learning royal protocols before marrying William. She came from a stable family and had dated William for years before their engagement. On the contrary, Meghan's whirlwind romance with Harry and quick engagement created a very different dynamic. The two duchesses seemed to have little in common beyond marrying into the same family. Prince William allegedly expressed concerns to Harry about the speed of the relationship and engagement. Reports suggested William advised his younger brother to take more time before getting engaged to Meghan. Harry apparently did not appreciate this advice and saw it as unwelcome interference in his life. The tension between the brothers, which would later become public, may have started during this period. William's protective instincts toward Harry clashed with Harry's determination to marry Meghan after their courtship. Harry later offered a different version of events in his memoir and interviews with the media. He described family members as initially welcoming to Meghan when they first met her at Kensington Palace. According to Harry, the problems developed gradually over time rather than existing from the start. He blamed the deteriorating relationships on brutal media treatment that the family failed to protect Meghan from. Harry felt the institution prioritized protecting other family members while leaving Meghan vulnerable to attacks from the press. The Sussex perspective emphasized institutional resistance rather than personal conflicts with individual family members. Harry suggested that palace staff and the broader royal system created obstacles for Meghan intentionally. The same support and protection offered to other royals was allegedly withheld from his wife. This institutional coldness, combined with relentless negative press coverage, made Meghan's position increasingly difficult. What began as a warm welcome turned hostile as the media narrative became more critical, and the palace did nothing to stop it. Number 10. Breaking protocol at the altar. Meghan made history by breaking several royal wedding traditions during the ceremony itself. Meghan ultimately broke royal tradition by walking alone up the stairs and nave of St. George's Chapel. Most royal brides are escorted by their fathers from the very beginning, but Meghan chose to walk the first part of the aisle completely alone. This independent entrance made a powerful statement about her identity and agency. Prince Charles then joined her for the second half of the walk as she reached the choir, where the main royal guests were seated. The wedding vows also included a significant change. Meghan did not promise to obey Harry in her vows. Many modern brides removed this word, but it was still notable for a royal wedding. Kate Middleton had kept the traditional vow, including obey. Meghan's choice reflected her views on marriage as an equal partnership. It signaled she would not simply follow all royal conventions without question. Another break with tradition came at the evening reception. In a break with tradition, the bride made a speech at the event. Royal brides typically do not give speeches at their wedding receptions. The groom, best man, and father of the bride traditionally speak. But Meghan addressed the guests at the private evening party at Frogmore House. This American custom brought her personal style into the royal celebration. The ceremony included personal touches that differed from previous royal weddings. Every choice, every decision seemed carefully made to balance tradition with their own identities. These protocol breaks became symbolic of larger tensions to come. They showed Meghan would not simply conform to every royal expectation. Her willingness to do things differently foreshadowed future conflicts about how she fit into the institution. The wedding day itself previewed the challenges ahead. What are your thoughts on Harry and Meghan's marriage? Let us know your views in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.